You've watched someone do something effortlessly, beautifully, and thought, I could never do that. But what if the gap between amateur and exceptional isn't talent? What if it's something your brain already knows how to do but forgot to tell you? You try something new, a skill, a craft, a challenge, and at first, you're terrible, which is fine. Expected, normal. But then weeks pass, months, and you're still just okay. Not bad, but not good either. And you watch others who started later and they're already better. So you assume they have something you don't. Talent, natural ability, the right brain for it. And you must just not be built for this. So you quit. Or worse, you keep going but never get better, stuck in the permanent beginner's zone. Here's the truth. Exceptional performance isn't about talent, at least not in the way you think. Psychology shows that what separates the merely competent from the truly skilled isn't genetics, it's deliberate practice, a term coined by psychologist Anders Ericsson. And it's not just practice, it's a specific type of engagement that rewires your brain. And here's the part nobody tells you. Your brain is designed for this, not for being good at everything, but for becoming exceptional at whatever you choose to focus on. Here's what happens when you do something at the edge of your ability. Your brain enters a state psychologists call desirable difficulty. Not too easy, not impossible, just hard enough that you struggle. And that struggle is the signal your brain needs. It activates your prefrontal cortex, your planning and problem-solving center, and forces it to create new neural pathways. This is called neuroplasticity. Your brain literally rewires itself based on what you repeatedly attempt. But here's the critical part. It only happens when you're at the edge. Comfort builds nothing. Repetition without challenge just reinforces what you already know. But when you deliberately push into the zone of difficulty, your brain treats it as important and starts building the architecture to handle it. So how do you actually do this? How do you move from amateur to exceptional? Here are 5 principles, grounded in psychology. 1. Practice at the edge of failure. This is where neuroplasticity lives. If you're always succeeding, you're not learning. You're just performing what you already know. So deliberately choose tasks that are slightly too hard, where you fail about 15 to 20% of the time. That's the sweet spot. 2. Get immediate, specific feedback. Your brain learns fastest when it knows exactly what went wrong. Not that was bad, but this specific thing needs adjustment. This is why coaches matter. They see what you can't, but you can also create feedback loops through recording yourself, comparing to a model, measuring precise metrics. The faster your brain gets specific information, the faster it adapts. 3. Focus deeply, not long. Research on expertise shows quality beats quantity. 30 minutes of focused, challenging practice beats 3 hours of distracted repetition. Because it's not about time, it's about cognitive load. Your prefrontal cortex can only sustain deep focus for limited periods, so work in intense bursts, then rest. This is when your brain actually builds the new neural architecture. 4. Embrace discomfort as signal. When you feel resistance, frustration, the urge to quit, that's not a sign you're failing. It's a sign you're learning. Because that feeling is your brain realizing it doesn't have the wiring yet, and it's uncomfortable. So instead of avoiding discomfort, reframe it. This feels hard because I'm building something new.
5. Use mental simulation. Your brain doesn't fully distinguish between doing and imagining. Neuroscience shows that mental rehearsal activates the same motor and cognitive pathways as physical practice. So before you attempt something, visualize it in detail. See yourself doing it correctly. Feel the movements. Anticipate the challenges. This primes your brain's motor cortex and reduces the cognitive load when you actually perform. Here's the mental model. Think of your brain as a sculptor, and every skill is a sculpture it's shaping. But the sculpture doesn't work when you're comfortable. It only works when you give it resistance, when you push into difficulty. That's when it picks up the chisel and starts carving. Every failure, every struggle, every moment of frustration is the sculptor at work, building the neural architecture that will make the next attempt easier. But if you never give it resistance, the sculpture stays idle, and the sculpture stays rough. You don't need talent. You don't need to be a natural. You just need to understand how your brain actually learns, and then give it what it needs. Challenge, feedback, focus, discomfort, rehearsal. Do this consistently, and your brain will build whatever you ask it to. Not overnight, not easily, but inevitably, because that's what brains do. They adapt, they grow, they become. So stop asking, am I talented enough? And start asking, am I practicing at my edge? Because that's where exceptional lives, right there, at the boundary between what you can do and what you can't yet.